This is an electromagnetic field. There are 3 rules governing interactions between electromagnetic fields. Rule number 1, there are 2 types of charge, positive and negative. That's a way for us to see the alignment of the force within a field. So if we've got the positive end up at the core, we find that the field lines, as they curve around, they're actually pointed downward out where they pass through the equator. Okay. Now, rule number 2, opposites attract. So if you have 2 magnets come together with the opposite ends, there'll be attraction. Rule number 3, like charges repel. So if you got 2 magnets coming together with the same poles, there's repulsion. Now, what this does, when we insert the smaller field inside the larger field, it creates a situation. We've got the arrow pointed down at the core of the smaller field. We find the arrows pointing up on the outside of the smaller field. And according to rule number 3, when you have the arrows going against one another, that creates repulsion. So right here we have repulsion. And right here we have repulsion. So if this smaller field goes this way, the repulsion becomes greater and it's forced back. If it comes this way, the repulsion becomes greater, it's forced out. Now if it comes up, you notice that the field lines get closer together until they go through the core, so it would get pinched off and be forced back down. And if it were to go down, the same thing would happen. It would get pinched off and be forced back up. Now, this is only 2 dimensions of the field, the up and down and the left and right. And if we look at the in and out, what we find is, if this field were to go into the board, the repulsion here would become greater, and it would cause it to orbit and circle back. So that smaller field is orbiting in a thin plane at the equator of the larger field. And that becomes an issue for me because we happen to live on a smaller field that's orbiting around a much larger field that we call the sun. Except physicists explain that this is happening because of a force called gravity.